Actually, 2 days ago, my daughter, 6-year-old daughter, Aline, lost her wallet by the parking lot in the Target. But she didn't really notice that. She didn't realize she lost it. But my wife got the phone call from the Chase Bank, and because the person who picked up the lost wallet, and he searched that wallet, and there was a card, the bank account card, and name in my daughter's name, and then it's a kid's card. So the wallet itself looks like a girl's wallet, and there's a number, right? So he bring it to the Chase Bank and ask the worker to contact the owner of this wallet, and then he did. So, I mean, it was not great thing, but it's a little thing, but I don't think not so many people would do that, right? So only a few people, handful of people would do that. But when you experience that, when you see those people, you feel like, wow, that guy is really nice. I mean, this is a really good person, right? This person is really better than most of other people. We felt that. But why would you feel that? Think about it. It's not the law that he had to do it, or, even if he didn't do it, no one will say he's a bad guy, right? He would probably, most of people saw it and just ignore it, don't just care. But when he talked to my wife, he said, I'm a father too, so I know how important it is to your kids. So that's why I did it. So, but we are so amazed and very thankful. It was like a moment of, gratefulness, moment of thankfulness. So why these people who don't do those things still think this is a good thing? We all feel like, oh, that's a really nice thing. That's really respectful thing, right? So that shows that human, although we are not perfect, we know what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing. Although it might not be always right, but the important thing is we are somehow seeking for the righteousness, seeking for the good thing. No one will really do the bad thing just for sake of bad thing. They do the bad thing in order to get something good for them, right? So it's not sake of the bad thing. If people are doing that, they're not normal. They're like a psychopath or something like that. So we all can see that people know what's a really good thing and what's a really bad thing, and they're seeking, and then they respect the good thing, and then they criticize bad things. That's what we do. Although the standard might not be perfect, but they just keep doing that. And C.S. Lewis argued that shows that we keep trying to find the good thing and bad thing, and people keep judging and criticizing that. It shows that they believe there's a true standard, like true ultimate standard, is there somewhere. That's why we keep thinking this is right and this is wrong. So when you take that idea, some being can judge this is good and this is bad, this is evil, then this one should be a person. It can't be just a power without any person, right? The person can determine this is good and this is evil. So the power behind this universe, some people might think, oh, this is just a power of anything, like power of law, power of anything. It's behind all creation. And the believers like us, religious people like us, will say, oh, that's actually God behind this all creation. few people will say, we don't know and I'm not sure, but probably most of people think either the power or God behind this whole creation. And then as we see that this power has a personality. He put some idea about good and evil in us. We didn't create that, but it's there. So it's from someone who created this whole world. And then if someone who create all this, everything, have this idea and then the perfect standard for good and evil and make us seek for that good, then that God must be ultimate good. That's his argument. So the power has personality, so it's not only power, but it's a person. Then the person make the creature seek for the good. So that person that we can call God is the ultimate good. That's the conclusion of the first chapter of the Mere Christianity. His argument was very convincing and very thoughtful because he himself was an atheist for a long time. Most of actually European countries, they may call themselves Christians, but he acknowledged that he doesn't really care about God much in his daily life. So he considered himself as an atheist for a long time. He said he had to be atheist because the main reason, not only for him and most of his friends, see themselves as an atheist because they couldn't believe the evil things happening, injustice and all the evil happening in the world, and then loving God at the same time. Both of them can't be present together. That was their idea. So a lot of people still think that way. So how come the loving God let these innocent people die? There was argument, but they see, because his life, he was in the army, he was in the World War I, so he saw a lot of people innocent people die. So he couldn't see the loving God was there in the World War and in the world. So that was the problem that he had. But as he kept thinking about it, one truth bothered him a lot, which was, how do I think this is wrong? You know what I mean? So he's saying that if loving God is there, but I see all the evil here, and that's why I don't believe in God, but how can you say this is evil? That means you have a standard that this is evil and this is good. That bothered him a lot, because how can I have such a standard if there's no God? If there's only a power without any standards of good and evil, then his argument just collapsed, because if there's no God, I cannot say that's evil. I don't like it, but I cannot say that's evil or injustice. You can say that. That bothered him a lot. But look at the word. If just the idea of goodness is just cultural thing or by education, then how come before the Civil War, right? Before the Civil War, slavery was totally fine by the law. It was, if you're against it, that's the crime. But having a slave and then treating them as a slave is totally okay by the law. And then probably they educated how to treat slavery. What's the proper way of treating them? Not to teach them maybe how to read and write, things like that. And treat them as a subhuman was okay at the time. But some people open their eyes and see that this is totally wrong and this is really bad, and it's a sin, and people started seeing those things, and then they proclaim it. Oh, that's a bad thing. We should change the law and change the world because you have to treat them as human. And then it spread it out. And then when people, although before that happened, people might be blinded by the law and culture, but when they see that, they realize, although it's all the convenience they experience and enjoy by having slaves, but once they realize that's wrong, and they couldn't stand with it, a lot of people, right? It shows that it's not because of the law or because of the education, but it's a human has somehow, they know what's good and evil. Although it's not perfect, but they have a certain idea about good and evil. So we cannot say it's just from the culture or education. So and that is the idea that we see the word good and evil. Then, so until here, we see that there's a power, or God must exist. In order, okay, when you see this word, there must be the power behind us, and then we see that that one must be a person who has idea about good and evil, and then C.S. Lewis is now talking about Christian God, because other than Christian God, the most popular idea is a pantheism. The pantheism is most of Asian cultures, that everything has somehow a spirit, like a God spirit in it. So it's a part of God. The earth itself is a part of God, and everything is a part of God. We call it pantheism. The problem with pantheism, the C.S. Lewis argue, is that everything is just part of God. So Spinoza, he said, in the limited perspective of human, you see that this is a bad thing and that's a bad thing, but in God's view, nothing is bad, because it's only the process. This is only the process. It's in God's control, and everything is going towards somewhere. So although it gives you pain and you don't like it, but it's not a bad thing, because it's only part of God's plan. So that's the view of pantheists. So pantheists believe there's no evil, basically, because it looks like evil, but it's not. But Christian God, the Bible, said very differently. It may look similar in somehow, because we see the suffering and pain of the world is a suffering, but it's also the process into the better one, for the better fruit afterwards. But it didn't say the evil is not evil. Christian God is saying the evil is evil, and then suffering is suffering. It's not say, oh, this is the only process, it's not evil, it's not a bad thing. You are limited, that's why you feel pain, but it's not a bad thing for God, because it's only the process, only part of it. But Christian God actually came into the humanity, and he himself experienced all the pain and suffering. And then he said he's taking care of that thing, and then he will finish it one day. So Christian God shows that he has a sympathy about our pain, our suffering. So he doesn't say to us in indifference that, oh, this is nothing, you have to go through, this is only process. He doesn't say that. He said, I know your pain, and I am with you. And I actually experience more pain than you do because I love you more than you love yourself. That's a Christian God claim in the Bible. So, in Christian perspective in the world, we experience heaven and hell, both of them in this world, because we see that the world was broken because of the sin, but there's some part of it has a restoration here and there. So we experience heaven, just like we met that guy who found the wallet for my daughter. We see in those like a goodness. When you see that as good, to experience those goodness, you experience heaven, like here and there. But you also experience hell, like when you meet people who are doing bad thing or who like a racist, like that kind of people, what people did in the world. So you experience heaven and hell. So the point is, you experience both things, but it's not a bad thing. But Christian God say, oh, this is hell because the world is broken, you experience it. But you experience heaven because there is real heaven that you are now just tasted, so that you can seek for that, and then you're eager to have that, kingdom of God at the end. So when you look at this actually three worldview, there's no such a thing as creator, or this view that there is a creator, but he is indifferent about us. And there's another view, shows that there is a God who created world, but because of human sin that world is broken. So you see heaven and hell in the world. Which one makes sense to you? Look around the world. What do you see? You see everything is just process and everything is okay? Or there's no meaning at all because there's no such thing as God? Or you see there must be some meaning in this life, but you face those like a hellish experience in your life, but it's not all the time. Time to time, you also experience heaven. You may feel like I don't deserve it, but how can I have this, wonderful people around me or wonderful experience, like in the nature or somewhere. So for me and to C.S. Lewis too, the third one makes total sense and very superior view than all the other view. That's why he became a Christian.